Okay, year 8, we're going to start our second part of the measurement, which is all about area. Now, it's a good idea to have a good think about what we're doing when we're measuring area and to get a definition. And they start us off with one right here. Area is a measure of surface, and it's the amount of space inside a 2D shape. That's a pretty good definition. I'd probably write something like that. And I'd also add this thing because this is very important. Area is measured in square units. Now, why? Why do we measure space in square units? Let's take, for example, if I had an area of land like that. Well, how am I going to decide what units or how I'm going to measure it? Well, you could try and measure it in circles. Well, that's space, and if you had a set circle. But when I start drawing circles, even if I draw them nice and compactly all together, I'm going to have little gaps. I'm not going to be able to have circles that show that there's error there. Well, what about triangles? Could I measure this and have no gaps? Well, that's right. Triangles are pretty good. They tessellate, and I can get triangles without any gaps. And I could say, the area of this shape is so many meters triangles or triangle meters. But really, if I'm going to measure area, I want the simplest shape. And the simplest shape is a square. And squares tessellate, so there's no gaps. And a square is a relatively easy shape to draw because all sides are the same. You can see that I can find the area and talk about it in square units. So area is measured in square units. So we need to be able to convert. Now, I would probably write this down somewhere. This is a very good way to do our conversions because we're talking about square units and we're talking about distances. We're going to be using kilometres, metres, centimetres and millimetres. So I'd have this somewhere in my notes, as well as this little one over here, because that's an unusual one, hectare. He was 1,000 times 1,000, 100 times stronger than 100 men, which made him 10,000. Supposedly, that's where it comes from. Now, I never remember those things, or I never used to when I was at school. I used to draw myself a square, which is going to be part of the first question. So I'd go, if I've got a metre squared, that's 1 metre, and that's 1 metre. Well, that means that's 1 metre squared. But it's also, if I took these two sides, 100 centimetres by 100 centimetres, and 100 by 100 is 10,000 centimetres squared. So a metre squared is 10,000 centimetres squared. And you can see that here, all right? And you can see they've even written 100 squared. So if you want to remember it that way. The same if I was going to convert a centimetre, 1 centimetre, 1 centimetre. Well, that's 10 millimetres by 10 millimetres. Well, that means 1 centimetre squared, 10 times 10 is 100 millimetres squared. And that's what they ask you to do in the very first question down here. So we've already done the very first questions. So there's one. They do exactly what we just did. How many millimetres squared in 1 centimetre squared? So you are 1 centimetre squared. So this is question 1A. 1 centimetre squared equals 10 times 10, 100 millimetres squared. So part 2, which asks for 4 centimetres squared, well, that's 4 times 100 millimetres squared. So 400 millimetres squared. And you can do the rest of those. Now, if we go down here, and I'm going to have a go at 1C. So in 1C, so you can do 1B, and in 1C, how many metres squared in a kilometre? Well, they've done it for us here. They've drawn it. 1 kilometre square is 1,000 times 1,000. Well, that's 1,000,000 metres squared. That's a pretty interesting thing because a lot of people don't remember that. It's 1,000,000 metres squared in 1 kilometre. That means you could fit, think about that, a metre square on the ground in front of you. To fill up a kilometre by a kilometre square, you need 1,000,000 of them. Okay, how many metres squared in 5 kilometres? So this is number 2. Well, 5 kilometres squared equals 5 times 1,000,000, which is 5,000,000 metres squared. To go the other way, and you can go back up here and look at this. To go the other way, I'm going to divide by to get metres squared into kilometres squared. So I've got 2, 5, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and that's metres squared. And if I'm going to convert that, I have to go 2, 5, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. I have to divide by 1,000,000. And I'll use my calculator. So 2, 5, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, divided by 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2.5. Now, I know I'm right. Well, one, because I have the answers beside me, but also because I know that if I divide by 1,000,000, that's just moving the decimal point 6 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to become 2.5 kilometres squared. I think it's important that we do D, because D is a hectare. Now, that's how we measure land, how many hectares. We used to measure it in acres, and some people still do. I think it's about 2.5 acres to a hectare. But we tend to measure in hectares now, 1 hectare. It's a standard unit of measuring of land. And a hectare is 100 by 100. 100 by 100, which is 10,000 metres squared. So that's number 1. Number 2, how many metres squared in 3 hectares? In 3 hectares will equal 3 times 10,000 metres squared, so 30,000 metres squared. And to go the other way, you just divide. So in 75,000 metres squared equals 75,000 divided by 10,000, which means I'm going to move the decimal point 4 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. It should be 7.5. 7.5 hectares, but let's just double check. 75, 1, 2, 3, divided by 10, 1, 2, 3, 7.5. Righto. The other thing here that we need to know a lot more about is what do we use for the height? Now, whenever we're talking about height, right, we are going to talk about perpendicular height. And perpendicular just means you're going to look for a little, oh, geez, awful. You're looking for something that indicates it's 90 degrees. And we indicate 90 degrees like that, and we've done Pythagoras, we know that's a right angle. So we're looking for the base and the height. Now, it doesn't matter which one you call the base and which one you call the height because you're going to be multiplying them together. But let's just go through these. So we're looking here. Now, it doesn't matter that this is up the top. Remember, the base refers to the bottom part of the triangle. You could turn that triangle up the other way, and you could draw it like this. Put the 7 there, the 5 there, and the 3 there. It doesn't matter the way it's drawn. The base, though, is always at 90 degrees to the height. So here, our answer, base is 7, height is 3. We don't use the 5. Here, we're looking at this one. They're joined by a perpendicular line. So base 8, height 6, or the other way around, it doesn't matter. Here, our height's actually outside the triangle. And the base of the triangle is this. It's got nothing to do with that bit, right? But the perpendicular height can be outside the triangle. Okay. Question 3, you already did. Question 4 is where you need to spend some time. So, what are we going to do? Convert the area measurements shown. So you need to do these. I'm going to have a go at a couple of these. And remember, I'm going to be referring back to the diagram that hopefully you've written in your notes above. And I'm going to show my working. Now, I'm not going to do them all. You need to spend some time doing them. So I'll just have a go at the first column. Have I got any? Yeah, okay. So 4A, 2 centimetres squared to millimetres squared. 2 centimetres squared equals, well, if I go back here, centimetres to millimetres, that's that way, and I have to times by 100. So 2 times 100, 200 millimetres squared. 3 hectares, we've already done one like that. So this is D, 3 hectares. You go back and check, but I know it's 3 times 10,000 metres squared, so 30,000 metres squared. Millimetres squared to centimetres, A, B, C, D, up to G. What do we got? Millimetres squared to centimetres. We've got 3090 millimetres squared. I'm going back the other way this time, so I'll just write that there. So kilometres to metres to centimetres to millimetres. If I'm going down this way, I'm timesing, and that's 1,000 by 1,000, so we said that's a million. Here I'm timesing by 100 by 100, so that's 10,000. Here I'm multiplying by 10 by 10, that's 100. And going back, I divide by 100, I divide by 10,000, and I divide by a million. Righto. So millimetres to centimetres squared, is it? Yep. Millimetres, I divide by 100. So 3090 divided by 100, which means move the decimal point 2 spots, 1, 2. So it should be 30.9 centimetres squared. I'm just checking my answers in the book here, and that's 1G, 30.9. So once you've got this little table that helps you up there, you're right. I want to look for a hard one that's maybe a double jump. So kilometres to centimetres or something like that. But there aren't any that like that. They're all relatively simple. They're only 1 unit jump. Let's, is there a metre squared to kilometre? Yeah, let's do J. So J, and that'll be the last one. What have I got? 450,000. 450,000. That's metres squared. I've got to convert to kilometres squared. So I'm going metres, and all of these should be squared. So I'm going from here to here, so I have to divide by 1,000. So 450,1, 2, 3. I'm going to divide by 1,000. Now I could do that on my, sorry, 1,000,000. Now that means I've got to move the decimal point 6 spots. So it's there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I should get 0.45 kilometres squared. And in 3J, that's the right answer. So once you know what you've got to do, you're going small to big, you divide, you're going big to small, you multiply. I can't see any double jumps there where you've got to go from one and then go again. They're all pretty standard. So good luck with those.